Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wigan Fan TV. I'm muted at the moment, so one of you three idiots is going to have to talk while I unmute myself. Matt, over to you.
Hello and welcome to Wigan Warrior Fans TV, where Sean is muted. Isn't this brilliant? Best start yet. We don't know how or why he's muted.
Neither do I.
The longer it stays that way, the better. So, over to you, Stuart Minnis. How are you doing?
I'm very good, Matt. How are you doing?
You're looking great.
During this hard lockdown, it's got to be done, pal. Back out there now, doing our thing. I've got to say, though, I'm very impressed with the work you're doing there, pal, in that garden of yours. 10 out of 10. Good man, keep it going, pal.
Actual blister on my hand.
Good lad, lad.
And
that's not from the garden, though, is it, Matt?
Oh, the homeless gentleman at the corner is speaking.
I don't think I was actually muted, I wasn't actually muted. I've confused myself. We've not done this for like 2 weeks, and it came up saying mute. And obviously it means press mute if you want to. What an idiot. So yeah, homeless guy at the bottom. David, bring us up to speed. What has happened today to you?
I've had an amazing day. So Monday and Tuesday were absolutely dreadful. The worst days I've ever had in lockdown. They were, honestly, I felt like giving up. And then today, I'm delivering at the moment for DHL through lockdown. Unable to see my daughter, but that's another story. But I was delivering today, and this old bloke pulled me back. He shouted at me, and he was like, "Excuse me, son, come here." And I thought he was going to complain because this parcel's been in the depot for about 4 or 5 days, but it didn't have the address on, so it couldn't get anywhere. Took it out to him today, and he shouted me back. He was like, "Excuse me, son, can you come here?" I was like, "Oh, God, he's going to complain because he's been waiting like 5 days for this garden equipment." I was like, "Yes, sir, what can I help you with?" And he was like, "Here." Reached in his pocket and gave me £2. This pensioner gave me £2 out of his pocket and said, "Thank you for working." A tear rolled down my eye.
Ice cream.
I got myself some cider. then I got home and my neighbour shouted me over. It's like, "You all right?" It's like, "Yeah, you." It's like, yeah. "What are you drinking?" I was like, "I'm on this cider." She's like, "Oh, I'm making a cocktail. Do you want one?" So she made me this cocktail, which was cider, Malibu, and strawberry liqueur. I think it was stronger than I thought it was because I've had two, and yeah, anything could happen tonight. And the other thing was,
if anybody is wondering, David is absolutely battered. Just so you know.
and the other thing was, I know Sean's all for promoting local businesses. I got a parcel this morning, another parcel, and I was like looking at it, and it just made me laugh because it was addressed to.
He's gone.
He has gone.
It was addressed to Kerry Bakewell. Kerry Bakewell. And I was like, that can't be a real name. And when I got there,
lesser-known sister.
She makes cakes. So anybody in the Wigan area, have a look for Kerry Bakewell and get your cakes ordered from Kerry. Honestly, I'm ordering some this week, so I'll share the love.
He's off it, isn't he? He's absolutely lost the plot. This is brilliant. Brilliant. Matthew Melling will be joining us at his leisure, hopefully accompanied by the Alice band that we need to question him about, if you've seen that on the Wigan Runners page. Matt, how are you doing? How's lockdown treating you? If I take the sort of banner off your head, we can sort of see. I feel like it is interesting to see everybody's stages of hair during lockdown, so we can just see that now. So how are you doing, Matt? How's the absence of rugby treating you?
The absence of rugby is horrible, and I'm desperate. I'm actually looking forward to the NRL starting again.
Yeah.
Because at least we can watch some live rugby and watch Wigan 2 or Canberra, as we call them. I'm looking forward to that because I'm just desperate to see some live rugby. It's horrible.
Absolutely. Lots of things for us, random things for us to talk about tonight, including Greg Inglis, some rumours to go through as well. We maybe talk about Exiles. I've given everybody some homework 2 hours ago to see whether they actually did it. But Stu, talking of lockdown haircuts, you've taken your lawnmower over your head. How did that happen? Is this the new look that you're going for?
Aye. Fast and quick, that's how it is, Sean. Fast and quick. Let's just say, I had enough of it. I had to come off. After a bit of debating with the wife, Mrs. Sharon Minnis, let's just say. But it's all for good fun, eh? And let's just say, I was a bit dubious when it was to be done. But anybody that's thinking about it, just do it. Because I'll tell you what, it is so refreshing. Honestly, it is so refreshing. Definitely, I would recommend it. So refreshing, do it.
Before we turn into a hairdressing programme, let's talk about some rugby league. I think it was 2-3 weeks ago we were on and we had our quiz. I've got some questions, should we need them later on. I've got the document with some questions that we can go to, because we've got about 398 questions, thanks to Ewan, to go through at some point.
Good on Ewan.
Yeah, so weird, bonkers week. And it only feels right and strange to talk about the team that we should be playing this weekend at Magic Weekend, Warrington, a team close to David's heart, of course. David, Greg Inglis is going to Warrington next year. What's all that about? Is there something in it? What you give us Warrington's perspective, David?
Inside scoop. Yeah, because obviously I've got quite a few friends that are Warrington fans. Not that I'm one, but I've got quite a few friends. And the reaction from the Warrington fans has been one of everybody else is bemused or totally astounded by this news that Greg Inglis is coming out. Now, he retired because he was cropped, basically, and then he's had his retirement, and then he's coming back to Warrington. And I honestly checked the dates. I was like, is this April the 1st? Like, are Warrington just having a laugh? The world's in lockdown. There's a recession on. Rugby League is trying to see if it can survive the lockdown and the pandemic with various talks going on at all levels. And Warrington are like, yeah, we've just thrown a shitload of money at Greg Inglis to come out of retirement and play for us for a year. Like, I don't get it.
No.
And Warrington fans are of the opinion that we're all jealous and bitter because and they're all like, oh, salary cap this. It's like, no, he's an old crock. He was a fantastic player in his day, but his day was a long, long time ago. So it's got people talking, but I'm not sure if it's for the right reasons. I just, when players are coming out of contract, like Albert Kelly's coming out of contract at Hull today, and he's going to go back to Australia, and players are fighting for their livelihoods, is now the right time to be talking about throwing mega bucks at, marquee players that haven't played for a year. It just, I can't get my head around it.
Peter's put a great question in there, Peter. We'll come back to that at some point, because we can sort of answer that. It's just a quiz question I don't think any of us will get right, so we'll come back to that later on. Stu, your thoughts on Greg Inglis coming to Warrington and the impact that he might have on Super League? He's still a superstar, whether he's injured, whether he's crocked, whether he's on whatever money, whether he actually comes or not. It's got people talking about Super League again, hasn't it?
I think it's absolute stupid, eh? Like David said. Well, it is, eh? Come on, what's going to be the next? Are we going to sign Burgess?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know what I mean, Mark?
Sean called that 2 years ago.
Well, yeah. This is it, eh? Honestly, I agree with David, eh? Mentally, eh? The way that we struggle at the minute, and we don't know what's going on with all the uncertainty of the old COVID-19 carry on, and it's balmy, isn't it? It's balmy. But if it puts bums on seats, as I've said before, it puts bums on seats for our...
Talk about putting bums on seats. Sit still, what are you doing? If it puts bums on seats for our 20 lot down the road, well, if it keeps them up, yeah. And we always say, it is there, yeah. So, we'll wait and see, yeah. Let's just see when the dust settles, eh? There you go. Matt, thoughts?
It's got people talking about Super League.
Absolutely.
It's got Greg Inglis slurring about Super League.
more than Davies. That video of him is interesting, isn't it?
A bit like me tonight.
Yeah, he was nearly as drunk as you are.
Absolutely. I mean, there is a way to get out of contracts under duress, and there is going to be at some point 3 months down the line where Greg Inglis goes, I was absolutely bad when I signed that contract. Where is Warrington? Because he looks worse than David on that video.
He does.
Not possible.
They gave him 3 crates of Fosters and said, sign this.
Yeah.
Felicity Torah.
He watches every week. Liddy. He's a big fan of the show.
Hang on. I fundamentally agree with this thing about this is when we should be being careful with cash. Actually, no, I don't disagree with that. But I don't agree with the salary cap restrictions. I think teams that can spend should be encouraged to spend now, because we need to be able to relaunch Super League, and it needs to look big. We can't.
Oh, here he is.
Got to roar. What the hell is that?
What? Oh my God! What is on your head?
What?
Hey guys,
My razor's coming out on your head after that, I'm telling you. I'm driving down. I don't give a shit about 2 metre distance. I'm coming down and getting you out of your hair.
I haven't got a clue what Stu just said. Wow, that was interesting, Stu. I haven't got a clue what came out of your mouth there.
I will translate that, Sean. I am going to drive down in 2 hours and I am going to shave Mr. Master Million's hair with my shaver. There you go.
You kinky beast.
Matthew, we'll come to you in just a second. We'll talk to you about. We're talking about Greg Inglis, so we'll come. Somebody said you're a massive Warrington fan, as well as David. So we'll come to you in a second for your thoughts on that, on Warrington side. But Matt, you were saying about the importance of Super League trying to sort of sell itself at this moment in time.
Yeah, we need a big comeback. Teams need to be able to make big signings. We need to make a big splash when the sport comes back. I mean, if ever there was an opportunity for a total refresh and relaunch of the game, this could be it. Because you're going to get crowds in anyway once we're allowed to go. The first round of matches, when we're all allowed to go back, people are going to flood in. Let's give them stuff that will make them want to come back again and again and again. And all these clubs who are saying, oh no, lower the salary cap. No, they don't have. No club has to spend to the limit of the salary cap. Not all clubs do. And
I think there's a lot in the timing of the announcement, isn't there? It's very much. It came out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere. Nobody was expecting it. Even Greg Inglis himself wasn't expecting it until he finished that crate of Foster's. But I think the timing of it, I think, is very, very important. The fact that people just the day before and a few days before that, people were talking about this sort of meeting about lowering the salary cap to 1.8 million or whatever it was, and this Yorkshire-Lancashire divide of Yorkshire wanting to reduce it and Lancashire and Cheshire wanting to keep it as it is, and then Warrington go and pull that out of the bag. I'm sceptical, I've got to say. The fact that he's not coming over this year, he's coming over next year, it doesn't affect the salary cap as such. It puts bums on seats. I still think he'll come over here, but I do think that signing is very much like Matt said. We can now go through Super League and we're kind of building up a portfolio of great names. Yeah, there has been, so they're not particularly at the prime of the game. But you look at the fact that we've got Sonny Bill Williams, James Maloney, Caesar, George Burgess, Sam Burgess joining Wigan next season to do a Greg Inglis, Blake Austin, Bevan French, Warrington have got.
Have you been looking at my team sheet for the Exiles?
French has been.
No, yeah. I'm trying to sort of like stellar names.
Is it all Folau?
Yeah, Folau there. We've got Fafita. It might be the wrong Fafita, but Fafita's over here, so we've got that name. So we've got big names. Callum Watkins, if you want to include that, coming back to Super League. We can actually start using names to hopefully sell this product. And it's not about selling the product to us five on the screen. It's about selling the product to Sky Sports, to BT Sport, and having that clash that Sonny Bill Williams against Israel Folau that was going to be played in Marseille, wherever it was going to be played in France. That wouldn't have happened if those two players weren't on opposing teams. And we've got more of that as an opportunity. Next year, Wigan versus Warrington, you've got Sam Burgess and George Burgess coming up against Greg Inglis and Jason Clark. So, am I pushing that a little bit too much, do you think?
It could happen, could happen.
I'm not telling you it should happen, it will happen. Matthew, welcome, on time.
I had a problem getting into my actually. I couldn't get in, it said my password was wrong. It wasn't wrong, but anyway, I found a way in.
Everybody knows that your password is the Wigan Runner is the best.
No.
No, it's
I
not.
love Part Rum.
I think Alice Band-Aid.
Matthew, apart from first of all, talk us through the hair and an Alice band gear. Why have you resorted to an Alice band?
I just saw when I was trying to get on then, and I checked in the group for the Skype. I couldn't find the Skype link, and I saw that you put the pictures on me with the band. So my hair's gone really long because
Wow.
8 weeks I've not had it cut now, and I didn't had it cut since early January. So February, March, so God, it's about 16 weeks.
Yeah, mine's the same, man. Come on.
Who have we got on, by the way? I can only see Matt.
So you got Matt, David, and Stu, and me.
You can only see me.
He's got you on full screen, Matt.
His hair's in his eyes. My question is, where did you get an Alice band from during lockdown?
So it's just a plastic band, that's all it is. So basically, I decided about 2 or 3 weeks ago that I would put it on because my hair was so long. And now in my mind, it's become where I feel like I need to have it on every time when I go running. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave my hair like this now. I know it's crazy long.
It's really not that long.
Curly.
It's a different colour.
So I'm going to leave it like this until lockdown is officially over. God knows, I might even get it braided. Should I get it? People used to call me a Brillo pad when I was at high school.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, because my you could show you a trick. Hang on a second.
You know that this isn't your Zoom counselling session, don't you?
Can you do us a trick?
Move it around and it stays in. Apart from that,
have you been at David's house drinking?
Live magic here on Wigan Fan TV.
Give him a golden buzzer.
I couldn't believe it when I heard this the other day. I thought I'd message you guys, but I must have dreamt it. I thought that I'd sent you a message about it. So, like, you tight?
You thought I was drunk, John.
Go on, Matthew. Don't listen to them, Matthew. You carry on.
Okay. So, like, what did I miss? What did everyone say? Do you think this is a serious move, or do you think it's like a payday for a year kind of thing?
A bit of everything, to be honest with you. Without going back, I think everything that you've just said is covered.
It'll get people talking about rugby league, though. That's the good thing, isn't it? Like, as with Sonny Bill Williams.
Sean looks bored.
I'm trying. I lost the sound then, and then I'm just trying not to laugh at Scott Marshall's comment about Matthew's ginger coming through.
Not ginger.
It must be the tint on our computers.
Yeah, it's not ginger.
It's not.
It better not be. It wasn't the last time I looked.
Oh, there's lots of people saying it looks ginger, Matthew.
It is one of the symptoms of coronavirus. Gingering.
He's gone.
He's gone. He has gone. I bet he's gone on his phone, hasn't he? Looking at his camera. He has as well. He's come back. He was on his phone looking at his camera. Is that what you were doing?
Someone tried calling me, so I had to press cancel.
Right.
I can see everyone.
Was it your hairstylist?
I was going to say, was it Vidal Sassoon?
Yeah. Can I as well? You know, with sports, with what's happening at the moment, they're coming back and that. Do you think? When do you think it's going to happen? In terms of rugby league, what's your prediction for when it'll come back?
David, over to you.
Well, I was going to throw it to Matt actually, because when Matt was talking about bums on seats, like, how logistically is that going to happen with spectators? So,
Matthew, just to bring you up to speed, David is absolutely battered. Like, he has lost the plot. So he's very, very drunk.
I've had 4 ciders and 2 cocktails, Matt. all good. Anyway.
Anybody's.
Anyway. Before I address the point of when Super League's coming back, I do have an important question.
Go on, then. Get on with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, who decided that Belgian buns should come in pairs? Because it must have been a man. Like, I mean, I'm not being funny, but like, that's just wrong, isn't it? That just looks.
I know.
Like,
they look so much like the Cookie Monster's eyes.
But isn't it? I mean, if you look at them, like, what do they remind you of? That's just totally wrong. Why would none others, cinnamon swirls and stuff, come in singles, but Belgian buns?
Say cinnamon swirls again.
Cinnamon swirls.
Right, shut up and answer the question.
David, that is so weird because I've always wondered why breasts look so much like Belgian buns. Who designed breasts? Must have been a chef, mustn't it? Because...
Oh my god.
Anyway. So when Matt said they're going to get bums on seats,
buns.
How's he going to do it? Because if they're going to have social distancing guidelines, I can't sit next to Daisy. Like, I can't because she's sat next to me. She's not 2 meters away. So, do they change the season tickets? Do they make people sit like 3 seats away from each other? What? It's just.
Well, I mean, it can't happen until either we've got a virus or it's sort of eradicated from the country. I mean, that in itself is the entirety of the problem about having sports with fans. That's why I seriously don't think it's going to be this year that we see fans in stadiums. But what about the sport? We've got NRL back this weekend behind closed doors at neutral venues. What about Super League? We've been told that sports can resume from the 1st of June. That's obviously not happening in terms of we just can't do it. I mean, this is Rugby League we're talking about. We can't turn around a sport in a month. But when do we expect that Super League will return, as Matthew's just said? Answer the question, David. I want a word.
July when the pub's open.
When the pub's open, nice.
So you can go and watch. So you can go and watch players playing with themselves. Well, not with themselves, but playing on their own. With stop laughing, Stu. So July, the pubs will open. We can go and stand in the pub, 2 meters away from each other, watching players playing with themselves. That's my prediction. July.
Sean, I've got something to put to you.
Yeah. You know I'm not in charge of the RFL though. I need to clarify that.
No.
Will you sit still? I'm sick of seeing that here.
You're on about NRL starting up here.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I was watching Nine Sport last night.
Name all 9.
You know what I mean? The Fox Sport. Well, you know what I mean. Anyways, listen. They reckon that the referees could strike regarding this going back to one referee. They reckon they could strike. It could be on thing. I don't know if you've heard anything on that, but that's what they were reckoning. The referees, because there was 2 referees on the pitch. They're going to put 1 referee back on. But
what's the purpose of striking? Referees not going to. There's not going to be money for them. People going to lose their jobs. I don't.
Something like that. Yeah. And they reckon it could issue the.
Will you sit still?
Start date. They reckon it could issue the start date. I just wondered if you'd heard anything on that.
Well, Peter Meadows is watching, so Peter, our sort of resident referee, will bring us up to speed in the comments with that, and I'll keep you abreast of what he says. But Stu, when do you think we'll see Super League back on our screens at least?
July. End of July.
Yeah, Matt,
copying off me.
Well, somebody has to copy off a master. That's what I'm saying, David.
Go on, Matthew. I mean, Matt. When do you think we'll see it?
Mid-July.
July? Copying off me? Get your own answers.
But I did say it first.
I think it'll be the 30th of June.
Friday.
That's the thing. It doesn't need to be a Friday. I mean, it doesn't have to be any particular day. It just needs to be a day. It's just like nobody's got any plans.
It needs to be a Saturday or a Sunday. Big bang, 3 o'clock.
First game. I think Fridays, Saturdays are still the best days to do it because that's when we can all have a few bevies, Dave,
Wednesday's a fine line.
And we don't have to worry about going into work the next day.
I've
got work at 6 o'clock. I'll be sober.
We know you're going to Kerry Batewell's.
Kerry Batewell, Appley Bridge Cakes. Get your orders in. Look her up on Facebook. Get a sponsorship, Sean. Matt, you could do a competition for her.
You get a sponsorship, David.
I'll try. I'll get Matthew doing something. Matthew will give something away. I'll get some cake for Matthew to give away. Peter
Meadows says if they go on strike, then he's going to fly over. So no real. I guess it is. I think somebody said. Matt says that Matt Pryor says that they weren't consulted first, perhaps on the return. I mean that's the thing, isn't it? In terms of returning, it's not a case of 26 players on the field at one time returning. It's everybody that goes with that, including the referee, the doctors, the physios. Matthew, when you asked the question, when do you think they're going to go back?
Yeah, Friday at 8 p.m. No, obviously not. So I think at the moment, it all seems to be like rain when the Premier League starts. And if you remember that Castleford game that went ahead when every other sport had kind of come to a stop, I think Rugby League will end up trying to come before the Premier League starts again, because it's an opportunity for us and Rugby League to...
David, stop giggling.
They'll force it out. Because can you imagine what an opportunity... As long as it's safe, imagine what an opportunity it would be to broadcast Rugby League as a sport when people haven't got many other options.
All of that players stay alert.
But that is the prime opportunity, isn't it? I do think that we'll still have that opportunity when it comes to the end of June, July. I think the Premier League is a long way from finalising anything in terms of an agreement on a date, in terms of returning for them as well. But people are just going to be desperate for sport anyway. I think it's the package that we put to people for people to watch it. I think coming back to Stu's idea of pay-per-view and maybe opening some up for that are free to air as well is essential, really. But at the same time, we need the money from Sky Sports, so we kind of need to honour that with Sky and not annoy them on that front. So I'm glad I'm not involved in it, because it must be an absolute... contrary to belief, no. I like to think that I am. If we were, we'd be starting tomorrow, or we'd be having Magic Weekend at least. And yeah.
If Sky have got no other games to show, that they will show loads of Rugby League games. And they've been really good, actually, at showing repeated games and stuff like that, haven't they?
They have. And sometimes we feel like we're a bit of a forgotten sport, but that we've just watched Wigan versus Bath, for goodness sake. I mean, they had to go and find the VHS of that and make it widen the screen past the score because it was so thin. But like that, they have stood by it. But the other thing for Sky Sports that they've got to consider as well is obviously people have had this opportunity to freeze the Sky Sports package. As soon as they bring sport back, if they're offering 6 Super League games a week plus 8 NRL games plus, I don't know, some tiddlywinks or something, all of a sudden they've got a package of sport where they can start charging people an amount at least, and then the income starts for them. So, and we are pretty much driven by that as well, aren't we? So yeah, lots of different. Here's one that I saw on Twitter for you. So we are no fans are going to be allowed in the stadiums, obviously. So obviously there will be some kind of clause in our contract that means that we have to play at the DW. But what about the option of if we had the opportunity not to play at the DW and not to pay the rent for game day or whatever it might be? What about playing our home games at Robin Park?
You're asking?
I'm asking you, David. Every question I ask is directed first at you.
So, I think that the opportunity for Rugby League will be using one venue so they can control everything. I think the option of triple headers is a really viable one.
Okay, so if we're going to use one venue, then we need to start the season again, don't we?
No. I just think that they will look at completing rounds over the course of maybe 2 days or 3 days. So almost like a Magic Weekend, but with with the clubs agreeing to forfeit home advantage for certain games. So,
Yeah.
and the thing that I like about this is, if the clubs agree to the splits, etc., but not using the DW, I wouldn't mind, because I don't think home advantage will count if there's no supporters there. I really don't, because it's just a picture. It's just a field.
Yeah, but everybody knows if you're on telly, you play better.
True story.
Stop it. But I'm all for keeping money in the game. So I'm all for, if they want to use something, I'll be all for Wigan playing a home game at Headingley, for example, keeping the money for whatever. I don't know how that will happen, but using rugby league venues, the DW is not a rugby league venue, so Robin Park's fine, but it's not. Well, it is big enough because there's no fans there, is there? But I think that it will be easier for them to control it and have maybe a set of officials where they don't use, if every game needs 5 officials because we've not got video refs, if we've got, referees, touch judges and in-goal judges, using one venue so they can rotate the referees and rotate the officials, and having maybe 3 games in one day. Sky Sports televise it, and I think that will go down. I think that will look better at somewhere like Headingley and avoiding the football stadiums, which sadly we are.
Matt, you win.
I think for player welfare, you need the best facilities available, and you look at the stadia that have got the best facilities. And I don't get the thing that we have to restart the season
But surely then. But the thing, you get this. I mean, we're probably not far enough in the season for that to be an argument. That's the argument that's being used at the Premier League at the moment. Is if you start using neutral venues, then that's unfair because Brighton, for example, have got to play United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, whatever. They've got to play big teams, and that home advantage that they would have had is now lost. We're only 7 rounds in. I mean, Catalans have only played 4 games because they got called off and various different things. So we're all at different stages, probably all early enough in the season for that not to have an impact. Obviously, in the NRL, we've seen that teams are being assigned a home ground, similar to what David's saying, rugby league grounds that have been deemed safe. Carol's put the point on about Robin Park and probably other home venues as well. Is the fact that you're going to get fans gathering outside of stadia. If their team's at home. So, if Wigan were playing all of their home games, I mean, I know, David, you have a tendency to drive to West Yorkshire and sort of just stay on laybys, but you're less likely to have that, I guess.
Not tonight, please, David.
Yeah, please not tonight. So, yeah, I mean, that's...
I can travel for my 1 hour exercise now, it's fine.
You can. You can, and there's so much wrong with that I really don't want to sort of delve any further into that. So
even the Brighton argument, right?
Yeah.
Home advantage in a situation where there are no fans. Even if there are fans, you're either good enough to beat teams home and away, or you're not. And this is we're now going to get dragged into the whole argument of promotion and relegation, which I hate promotion and relegation.
Well, we just scrap it this year. It's like you can't have promotion and relegation this year because as soon as a team gets relegated, there's a legal challenge coming from that team straight away. And if it's Toronto that get relegated, they've got more money to take anybody to court.
To be
Why is
fair,
there a legal challenge?
Because it's that situation that you just described straight away is not the season that they're signed up for in Super League. They're signed up to play their home games in Canada, and they can't do that.
But they don't play all their home games in Canada. It's irrelevant. They play blocks in UK.
But they use that as a So we've had Sandy on the show, we've had Sharon Lill on the show, and they were all saying, "Don't worry, we will turn our season around when we start playing games."
Do you think David's now getting to the aggressive drink?
Yeah, absolutely.
Aggressive. Well, what I'm saying is,
turf him out.
Nobody signed up for anything for this season, but I don't see how you can. What's the point in competition if you're not going to go for promotion relegation?
Because
it's irrelevant.
It's absolutely impossible this year.
In the same boat. Nobody.
Well, they're not because we won't have there won't be a championship season for anybody to get promoted.
That's fine.
So who are you promoting from the Championship when in a couple of weeks' time the Championship and League One they just voided the season and the £16 million is basically to get Super League back on track and then filter the money from the top tier. And it's got to be a battle of the fittest. We can't keep proper.
Right, the season off then. There's no point.
You're right. You write the Championship and the League One season off. You've got to
What's playing for champions?
Pardon?
What would be the point in playing to be like the champions?
What do you mean?
Because that would make you the champions.
No, it wouldn't though, because if somebody's at the bottom of the table and they know they're not getting relegated, are they going to give 100% compared to if they were fighting for their lives? They're not going to fight for it. They're just going to be like, well, it doesn't matter.
But then you sort of question the integrity of professional sportsmen.
But you're just saying, so there's no relegations, so everybody's safe. So
Give me a
there isn't any integrity though, is there? If nobody's fighting for anything at the bottom, then they shouldn't be fighting for anything at the top.
Okay.
They shouldn't. It should be just a boys' season.
Okay. Well, there we go. We've sorted the argument.
No, we haven't.
You can imagine that at the RFL as well, can't you? Well, but yeah, there you go. You've sorted it. Perfect.
Yeah. Write the season off when it calms down, and why don't we just do England versus the Exiles, and then
rock paper scissors.
What, for the Super League title?
Yeah.
What about the right the season off, man? At least we're getting rugby. Aren't we?
The sport cannot afford to write Super League off. No. The sport will not survive if Super League is written off. The whole survival of the sport, I think, is based on Super League at least getting some form of seasoning, no matter what it looks like, but it needs to have some kind of seasoning to bring in some kind of income to sustain the sport. And I think we will lose teams at the bottom.
But sure. If we're fighting for a top 5 place at the end of the season,
or buttons,
and they were level. If Wigan were level on points with, for argument's sake, St Helens at the end of the season, and Wigan had to play Warrington, who also needed 2 points to get into the playoffs, and St Helens had to play Toronto, who had nothing to play for.
Hang on, just let me write this down.
I feel like
again, your point is at that point that we'll be playing a team that has got something to play for. Saints will be playing a team that haven't got anything to play for.
Yeah.
What happens? So here's another scenario for you. We play promotion and relegation. That exact same scenario has happened, but Toronto have been relegated 4 weeks earlier. It's exactly the same. And you know it is, and you know I've just made a good point.
Yeah, but you're not answering my question.
No, because
you're not Jesus. No, you're not Jesus. Ignore.
I'm not Jesus.
So, Sean,
Matt, put the cursor in, lad. Yeah.
Right. My point's still valid. If we've written relegation off and we're going to play in a team that's got a lot to play for, and St Helens are playing a team that's got nothing to play for, how is that fair?
I've just answered the question.
You've not. You've just said, well, what happens if you're relegated 4
weeks
earlier?
But that's the same point.
You've not been relegated 4 weeks earlier because there's no relegation.
That's sport. Anyway, moving on. You could take the argument with the person in the mirror. I think you'll have a good argument with him later on.
Michael Jackson.
Can I just say, Sean, your next T-shirt should read, "You're not Jesus, and my point is valid."
I love that. Okay, right, end of the season. Let's move on to the end of the season. Final point, we'll go round here. So Origin it has been announced. It's on the same days as the Kangaroos tour. Rugby League being Rugby League haven't finalised the cancellation of the Kangaroos tour. Everybody's aware that it can't physically happen, otherwise we'll be playing, well, Greg Inglis probably, and people alike if they bring over some Australian team. So it's not happening. So how we haven't started the season, but we're talking about how we end it. Would you like to see England play the Exiles? How do we need to end the season? Matthew, I'll come to you first. Would you like to see some kind of showcase event at the end of the year, and if so, what would that be?
Well, obviously England versus Exiles would be brilliant, but I don't think that can happen. But it would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Something like that to go on for Rugby League. Or maybe if they had like a veterans team, like our next players.
They have to call Warrington.
Yeah.
So you're possibly on board for Exile. So we'll come back to Exile. There's some suggestions at Home Nations team from Craig there. Matt's just put in the comments here that it's like being in an RFL board meeting. I like the idea that there's always a drunk person in the RFL board meeting. That really sort of that's tickled me a little bit. Right, David, how do we end the season? Are we going Exiles? Lancashire versus Yorkshire is another suggestion in there.
No, I think Exiles is probably the easiest one to manage. Lancashire versus Yorkshire, you get all the anomalies like London players playing for Lancashire, and it's just messy. At least Exiles, you got UK players against UK and other overseas players. So yeah, let's go. What are you laughing at?
Spencer's comment. Next time I get told to stand outside a green, I'll just to wait in queue for a pie. I'm yelling, "You're not Jesus!" I bet they give me a pasty sharpie. So that's really tickled me, David. Like, I don't know where that came from.
Because you answered a question with a question.
Is that what Jesus did? Is it?
Matthew, Matt. Isn't that what Jesus did? You're the religious one in the group.
To quote Jesus, is that what I did?
See?
Stu, how are we ending the season?
Exiles, it's got to be done. There's plenty of us would say, plenty of ex-foreigners over here which could give us a good game.
Ex-foreigners?
Well,
what is happening?
It's got in my head. Obviously, it's got in my head. No, there's plenty, as we'll name later, which we should if we've done our homework.
Yeah, well, we're gonna bring that up in a second. Matt, how are we ending the season? If you say Exiles, that'll be a perfect segue into the homework that you've all done.
Well, we're ending the season with the grand final, followed by an Exiles game.
Excellent. Okay, so the Exiles feels like the prime opportunity that we've perhaps not had for a number of years in terms of the big names that are over here at this moment in time, the likes of Sonny Bill Williams, Conrad Hurrell. We've got the questions over Jackson Hastings and Blake Austin. So your homework was we're going to go around and we're going to do position by position of the Exiles team. We're going to see whether we can get to a team that we can agree. Matthew, don't worry, I'm making it up as I go along as well. Okay, so let's.
Everybody's got the same number one.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's start with fullback. Matt.
We should have. Let's just say we should have.
Matt.
If Tomlinson hasn't.
Matt, who are you picking as your fullback?
It's Bevan French, isn't it? It's got to be.
Stu.
I've got him as standoff.
Idiot. Stu.
Yeah, the same as Matt, Sean.
Bevan French. David, fullback.
Well, I'm going to have to say Bevan French now, aren't I?
Well, no. Who have you got on your piece of paper?
He's put the dummy out.
Brett Hodgson.
Idiot. You absolute tool. Matthew, are you happy? So Matthew, you are going to be the person that decides on the actual selection. You are the selector. These are the suggestions. My suggestion, because everyone's gone Bevan French, I'll just say David Mead, just to sort of say that we've got a different one in there. So Matthew,
he doesn't play, does he?
I don't know. Well, what Brett Hodgson does? David Mead, Bevan French, and Brett Hodgson are your options. Who's your fullback, Matthew? French, okay. Right, two wingers. Matt, start with you. Two wingers.
Brett Farimo and Krishnan Inu.
Okay. Controversial. David?
I've gone for Christian Inu also. It's probably a bad time to say this one, though, because he's just decided he's...
And you can't pronounce his name.
But Rennie Matalagu.
Yeah, I got rid of him for that reason.
What, because you couldn't say his name?
Yeah. Couldn't even say Krishnan Inu.
Stu, who are your wingers?
Number 2, Sean Kenny Dowell.
Okay.
Number 5, Israel Folau.
Okay, so... I mean, they can play centre, they can play on the wing. Kenny Dowell's playing centre for Hull KR, but he's been a winger in the NRL. I'm with Stu on that. Just pipe down, David. Okay, so options on the wing: Fanua, and Nalagu, or however you say, the Rugby Union bound Hull FC winger as well. Matthew, who you cementing as our wingers?
I agree.
Okay, so
All five.
He hasn't done his homework. Give him a black mark. He hasn't done his homework. Give him a black mark.
Willie, spell his surname?
which one?
Willie Matalan.
Just Google Willie and see what comes up. Centres.
Really Matalan.
So we're undecided on the wingers then, but I think Nalago is probably the one that got the most. Who was your other winger, Matt?
Krishnan Inu.
Inu, why? Inu over Fanua.
Yeah.
I mean, you're both wrong, but okay, we'll go with Inu. Seeing as two of you said it.
You're not Jesus.
I know. I've been told that already numerous times tonight. Centres.
What's Fanua done this season?
I don't know, but he not a lot. But we've only had 7 games.
I don't think anybody's done this season, to be fair.
Fair point.
Right, two centres, Matt.
Go easy. Kevin Nagama and Conrad Hurrell.
Stu,
Same as Matt.
David.
I've gone for Conrad Hurrell and Follow.
Okay, I've gone for Hurrell and Nakima as well. So Matthew, who?
Italians? What's wrong with you? Italians are rivals.
That was so scouse. That's like I'm just. There's... Matthew, who you cementing in the Wigan Runner Exiles?
Don't you dare pick a St. Helens player.
Just let the man speak.
Right, Trip.
Oh.
Part run.
Oh, I knew that.
Yeah, who have you picked, Matthew?
You said.
I haven't got a clue what he's saying. I think you get.
The club is.
The ones in the centres. Did you not say which two in the centres?
Yeah, who are you picking for the centres? Who have you decided on?
The two that Matt picked.
Right, okay. So, Hurrell and Nakima.
David's having a meltdown here, look out.
I
Right.
can't believe you picked St. Helens.
Alright, halfbacks, Matt. Halfbacks.
Oh, Blake Austin, James Maloney.
So, Blake Austin, the Great Britain international. The Great Britain winger.
He played on the wing.
Okay, it's still a position for wingers.
The reason that I haven't chose Jackson Hastings is because I don't want him injured. So
And he's British. Stu.
I'm not allowed Blake Austin. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, you've picked it. I mean, it's up to the Wigan runner. He's our chief selector. It depends what he comes up with. Stu, who are your halfbacks?
Right. I've got an idea here, right?
Oh, here we go.
Right.
If he says Bevan French, I'm
think-
turning this off.
Right. I'm getting the telepathic thought off Philip Tomlinson here. And I think it's time to
Is it going in that ear by any chance? Because I'm
Bevan
sick of
French,
looking at that
Bevan
ear.
French and things, but no, I'm not going to say that because that's what I've got written down. What I've got is number 6, James Maloney, and number 7, Adam Caesar.
Adam Caesar, is he replacing Aiden?
Aiden's lesson over.
Oh,
There were
man.
triplets. Hail Caesar was the other one.
Honestly, the sooner we get through this 13, the better. David, your halfbacks. It was better than Hail Caesar.
I've gone for Jackson Hastings and another one that's buggering off from Super League, Albert Kelly.
Okay, I've gone for Adam Caesar as well and James Maloney.
I think David should have gone for Alka-Seltzer.
Them in the morning, I think.
The Wigan runner, who are you putting in the team?
Jackson Hastings, definitely.
He's British.
Your faces.
Albert Kelly is good, isn't he?
No.
Yeah, he is. Pick him, Matt. Pick him.
Is that who you're going for? Kelly and Hastings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Matthew.
Right, 2 props. Matt, who are your 2 props?
Darcy Lasick.
Okay.
Yeah, that surprised you.
Yeah, it is.
And David Fabita.
Okay. Stu?
David Fafita and oh god, how do you pronounce the guy from Leeds? Is it Abosir Marufara? What they call him?
Well, that's good enough for me.
Say it again, Stu. Go on, Stu. Give us again.
Abosir Marufara. There you go.
I think that's a good effort. David?
David Fafita.
Yeah.
I didn't have another one. I was struggling. So, Stu, what was yours?
Hey, bother Paul, I'll say it to you again. Abosir Marufara. Aye.
Aye. That's him.
Mine, David Fafita seems to be sort of around there. And Matt Pryor, I've gone for.
Isn't he a cricketer?
He's a good prop though as well. Matt Pryor of Leeds. Wigan runner, who's in our team?
David Fafita, and the one that you said, I'll let you have one.
Me, Matt Pryor. That's very kind of you. Okay. Hooker, Matt.
Tommy.
Oh yeah, Tommy Luluwai.
Stu?
Tommy,
It's already decided.
Yeah.
Tommy, it's gonna be Tommy.
Ooh, Tommy. David, who have you picked?
Absolutely. Only because my good friend Danny Calderbank once said, and it might not have been him that quoted it, but he said, nobody folds you better than a cheap Blackpool deck chair than Tommy Luluwai.
Okay, yeah, I'm Tommy Luluwai as well, so it's a clean sweep, and I think Matthew Mellon's already given the jersey to Tommy Luluwai before the selection process. Okay, second rowers, Matt.
Ben Murdoch-Masila. And the one from Huddersfield who I can't pronounce. Suawa Matari.
Ask you to pronounce it.
Stu, who are your second rowers? You might have picked him.
Well, it's got to be Willie Isa, isn't it? Come on, number 11, man. Willie Isa, my favourite player. And number 12, Kenny Edwards.
Nice, okay. David?
I've just gone for a mixture of Matt and Stu. So I've gone for Ben Murdoch-Masila and Willie Isa.
Okay, I've gone for Manu Mayu, or however you say his name, and Sonny Bill Williams.
No.
Yeah, we've got to be included, yeah.
Yeah, so who are we going for with the Wigan runner? Who's our 11 and 12?
Isa and Sonny Bill Williams. Sonny Bill Williams has got to be a match like that, hasn't he?
Matt Pryor says cheers to his selection. It's no problem, Matt. Right, Matt, number 13. Who's our loose forward? It's on the screen. It says Matt Pryor. Matt Pryor, cheers. Right, who's your loose forward? Sorry.
I've got a problem now because I did put Sonny Bill Williams.
He's already in the team.
I think he's a loose forward. I think Sean's blagging us.
I mean,
he's a loose forward. He's a loose forward.
I mean,
he's a loose forward, Sean.
No, he's not. No, he's not. I'll tell you who is.
Masila wasn't picked.
There we go. There is a loose forward. There is somebody that's played loose forward. But Sonny Bill Williams has been playing second row.
Get Sonny Bill Williams on next week.
Right, I'll get him on now.
Get him on now.
Don't mention.
Hey,
whatever you do, don't mention Jesus when I ring him, though. Christ. So Ben Murdoch-Masila is a 13, not Sonny Bill Williams.
No,
but
he's a 12.
He's not. He's a 13.
I've Sonny Bill as 13.
I mean, let's have them both in the team and they can alternate.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that was my plan all along.
Stu, anybody different? Have you got somebody controversial at number 13?
Go ahead, Sonny Bill.
Is everybody Sonny Bill? Even though he's
no, I've got Ben Murdoch-Masila for 13.
Well done, Stu. A little bit of common sense. Let's put a loose forward in a loose forward. You know, let's put a square peg in a square hole.
Well done.
Yeah, well done. This has been like I feel angry. Like we finished the show and I feel furious, David, and I don't know why. Like put them away. You are silly. Right, okay. As Matt just moves on to his.
Who's your subs?
Oh, I'm not going. Christ! I'm not going through subs. We'll be here till lockdown's finished.
I'll tell you what I've got down here.
Okay, well, they can be our subs.
Reece Martin for 14, Adam Cuthbertson for 15, and Matt Parcell to come on. There you go.
What about the other one? Ronnie the Rhino.
Hang on. I'll tell you in a minute.
You don't give us 3 subs. He's
Googling them now, isn't he?
Morgan-esque here.
And
Never act.
you wanted to pick a coach as well, Stu. Who's your coach?
Steve Price.
Steve Price. That's
Because Steve
He's
Price
the only
versus
Australian you know.
Steve Price. No, Tony Smith. Tony Smith was an option.
What about Adrian Lamb?
Because I'm thinking is Steve Price versus Sean Wayne. How many grand finals are there?
What about Adrian Lamb versus Sean Wayne?
Huh?
What about Adrian Lamb versus Sean Wayne?
Adrian Lamb.
Whatever Adrian Lamb, whatever. It's just
Poor Adrian.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was biased, or wouldn't they? Because Wigan.
I mean,
Adrian Lamb be allowed to do it because he's the Australia assistant coach.
I need to clarify something with all of you. This is not the actual selection process for the Exiles. I feel like you're going too deep. Yeah, you're really starting to think too deep. Right, I think on that bombshell, it's time to... David, you need to go to bed.
There's nobody upstairs though, so it's a bit rubbish.
you man.
I don't think David should go to bed yet. I think give him 5 minutes and he'll be telling us we're the best mates he's ever had. He loves us.
I love you.
I think that's the reason why we just need to stop. Matt, thank you.
Interesting thing. Do you remember that when we had, was it 11% or 12% B and I hadn't even run yet? That was such a tough run.
Matthew Mellin running after a beer tasting session was Matt, it's 11:30. Have you run today? No.
So
I better drink that then.
It was on a Wednesday, if memory serves me right. That was on a Wednesday, was it? Or Tuesday?
Wednesday.
Yeah. We ran at what?
Don't ask David. He'll say any day now. Look at him.
Okay.
That was a good night.
Right. Let's. I'm ringing the bell. Last orders were 20 minutes ago.
Last orders. If you need cakes, where have you got to go to, Sean?
Either go and see your buns or go to, what's her name? Karen Kipling.
Kerry Bakewell. Kerry Bakewell. How good's that?
Matthew, first, finally, just tell us what run number you're up to. Let's finish on that.
Well, I've run so far for 1,235 days. Tonight is going to be 1,236. And I do Wormer running Wednesday now, don't I? And I give a prize away. Sometimes now I call it Where Am I Wednesday, because I'm actually running on the video. But I'm going to charge my phone only on 28%. I'm going to charge my phone for about half an hour now.
I'm on 28%.
Just to make 27.
And so does
minus? I'm going to 27.
I'm going to be doing it. It's obviously going to be in Wigan because I'm in Wigan now. And it's going to be a Do the Unthinkable food box. 3 days worth of food worth 50 quid.
Can I guess?
One who guesses Yam is going to win that. And I've got a referee lined up this time as well because the last couple of weeks I've done it. There's been so many people guessing right at the same time. I've said the wrong person. And I've had to give out 2 prizes at my own expense. So I've got someone thinking to be referee tonight. But it's good fun.
Can I just guess that you're running from your house straight away? It feels like...
No, that's not. It's worth start on the video. So
right.
I might drive yet. So yeah, I'll probably drive first because so then people don't see me.
You're assuming he's in his own house.
I am. I think he's in David's house actually.
He's in the front room.
Right, gents, thank you for your time. Matt, thank you. Stu, thank you for showing us your ear throughout all the video for some reason. David, thank you. Just seriously, thank you. Matthew, thank you as always as well for joining us. These NHS shirts are still available if anybody wants to buy them. On the Teespring website, I think we sold. I think there's over 50 people that have bought them now. I think we sold over 50. So,
Jesus shirts are coming now.
Yes, they really are. Keep an eye on Teespring because in the next hour there will be the You're Not Jesus t-shirts available to purchase for everybody, and the funds will be going to David's drinking fund. Thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully see you next week. Keep well everybody, and as Spencer says on the screen, drink responsibly.
Yes, Sean. Guys.